On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, people are using their TVs to watch cable less than 50% of the time now for the first time ever. Also, Disney's looking at doing a live-action remake of Princess and the Frog, and they're looking at Lupita Nyong'o to be the star. She's great, but I might have some problems with that. Gal Gadot's newest movie on Netflix is kind of getting panned, which is making some people question whether or not she was the right choice for the new Snow White movie. That and Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, which has been indefinitely delayed, is getting a little bit of a release update now from the film's creators. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world: movies, movie news, TV, and streaming, and all sorts of good things. Not just giving you our opinions, but giving you some information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different from ours. Joining me here in studio today, we got Ray Ora.
Woo! Tuesday, baby!
It's a big day. Tuesday looks big day for Ray all the time. Jonathan Voico's here.
So excited it's Tuesday.
And they're just happy because Chris Carr is here.
I hope so. I feel like that's not right, though.
You know how they say, like, never in show business, never follow children or animals?
Yeah.
Yeah, never follow Ray.
Yeah. It's always such big energy that I don't know what to do.
Go
I'm just like,
after
I
that.
don't know what to do now.
But most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making the show part of your day. Here's how the show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about those topics I listed off. Then in the last part of the show, we're going to take some questions from our YouTube channel members. We, of course, have a YouTube channel where we put up some videos every day. And we have a wonderful group of supporters over there known as YouTube channel members. And you might want to become a YouTube channel member yourself. We have things like customized emojis, ad-free versions of the show. We do town hall meetings, and we ask our channel members to submit questions and topics for our show every single day. All right, guys. With that down, let's get into it here, and we're going to start with this. You know, we've all known for a while that cable television, broadcast TV, is going the way of the dinosaur eventually. I mean, it's still an incredibly popular thing. It is still what the majority of people use their television for, is broadcast and cable. Well, at least that was the case until now, because according to this report in the Hollywood Reporter, for the first time ever, Nielsen ratings are telling us that people are using their TVs to watch cable less than half the time. Cable and broadcast. Traditional TV, we'll just call that. Traditional TV is taking up people's televisions for less now than 50% of the time. Streaming has gone up. Video game usage has gone up. All these sorts of things. Now, when it comes to television entertainment, broadcast, traditional TV is still the king. It's outpacing streaming right now. But streaming has grown, whereas traditional TV has been falling off a cliff. Now, on top of that, a newest report just came out that said when you get all the big major cable providers, in the last quarter, they collectively lost another 1.7 million subscribers. So just in the last couple of months, another 1.7 million people have cut the cable, or cord cutters, as they're referred to as. They no longer have cable or traditional broadcast television. They're relying on streaming and things like that. So when we go over and actually look at the numbers, this is what the numbers tell us. So when you look at traditional television, that's cable and broadcast, they make up 49.6% of television usage. Streaming has gone up, again for like the millionth quarter in a row, to 38.7% of streaming or of television usage. And other, which includes things like DVD players, things like video games, stuff like that, other represents 11.6% of a television's use. This is interesting. When you go into the streaming services, number one is still YouTube, which is not really what we think of as a streaming service, but we do stream it. So YouTube gets used the most at 9.2%. That's what's on people's televisions the most. Netflix, 8.5%. Hulu, 3.6%. Prime Video, 3.4%. Disney Plus, 2%, Max 1.4, Tubi at 1.4, Peacock at 1.1, the Roku channel at 1.1, Paramount Plus at 1%, Pluto TV at 0.9, and all others 5%. There's a really neat number in here. I got to see if I can find this. You can take it off my screen for now. I'll see if I can look it up here in a second. But I mean, this is kind of shocking in two different ways. I think there's probably a lot of people out there that are going to be stunned to find out that traditional television is still 50% of the use of I think there are probably some people out there that thought maybe that marker was passed a long time ago, but it wasn't. In all the talk about streaming and streaming taking over, traditional television has still been king. I guess in a way it still is, in that it's outpacing streaming per se, but for the first time, when you go into a house and a TV is on, you now have less than a 50% chance that traditional television is up on that TV. It's either going to be Max, or it's going to be YouTube, or it's going to be Netflix, or it's going to be Pluto, or it might be Baldur's Gate 3, which I finally started playing.
Yay!
But we'll put that aside for a second. Had to cheat, though. I had to use an online streaming service to play it because it still made my computer crash. But anyway, I'm playing it now. Thank you, GeForce Now. So that's all these side things. Chris, you hear about this. I don't believe there's anybody watching this that believes this trend will change.
No.
Nobody believes that broadcast television, traditional television, is going to make a comeback. It is now in hospice. It is just like doing the best it can in its dying days. But what do you think about these numbers we've just seen?
You know, they're not surprising at all, but it is a very definitive inflection point in the industry and how viewers consume everything. We also have this lovely point where streaming is going to continue increasing. It's going to continue being higher and higher priced for all of us, but I don't see anyone going back to cable. I can see people going back to a bundle similar to what cable used to do and what we've seen Disney try to do with like Hulu and ESPN and things like that. But cable television is for sure the way of the dodo. The only thing surprising here is that this is at a halfway point marker, right? That almost 50% number is the most jarring part of, oh my gosh, that many people still have cable?
Yeah, it's crazy,
It's
right?
wild. But it is really funny, though, to see people constantly talking about, gosh, I have to have all these streamers. It'd be so nice to have something where I just had one thing that I paid one amount of money for and all my shows were there. And you're like, I mean, we had that.
Yeah.
We had that before.
And we wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah.
This is kind of interesting. Also in this Hollywood Reporter, Ray, I think you're going to get a kick out of this. Hollywood Reporter also said this in that same report. Acquired series led the streaming bump in July with Suits, which of course has just been blowing everything up 4 years after its cancellation, with Suits on Netflix and Peacock accounting for more than 18 billion minutes of viewing during the month, about the same amount of viewing time as Stranger Things had in July of 2022. Okay, hold on, camera back on me. I want you to keep this in mind though. Okay, so it did as well as Stranger Things. Stranger Things is a new show. Suits is a show that got canceled 4 years ago. And it is currently doing as good numbers as the brand new Stranger Things. That's kind of crazy. But here's the part that Ray's going to like.
Oh, yeah. Is it about 90 Day Fiance?
Even better, buddy.
Sex Court TV. No. Oh. Disney Plus's Bluey. Yeah. Had about 5 billion minutes of viewing for the month. I don't know why they felt like they had to slide that in there, but a little bit in there for Ray.
Come on, man. It just shows you that people are watching.
The people want Bluey.
People want Bluey.
The new seasons on Disney Plus, I have a feeling there's a couple people out there that had to get a subscription just to watch Bluey. I want to believe that there's some people out there who said, oh, the new season of Bluey's going on to Disney Plus? I got to get a subscription now. There has to be at least a couple people, right?
There's got to be at least more.
You're looking at me like I'm foreign, right?
There has to be at least more than one, right, Ray, is what you're saying?
I have certainly not met any of those people, but I'm sure they exist. I'm sure they are there. Bluey, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on.
Bluey. What do you think about this whole thing? Are you still a cable subscriber? Guess what? I think the only reason that cable still has as much as cable and broadcast is two reasons. News and sports. Sports is still the thing that the streamers haven't really been able to capitalize on. I have YouTube TV, which is a streamer, but it's got all the broadcast stations. But the only reason I have YouTube TV is so I can watch my sports. I mean, once streaming really gets on board with that, it's probably going to go even faster. Anyway, all right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Disney and their habit of making live action remakes of their animated classics. to be fair, it hasn't been all bad. It's actually been hit and miss. They've done some pretty terrible things. They've done some okay things, and they've done some really great things. I think Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella live action thing was terrific. I love Guy Ritchie's Aladdin. Love it. Not as good as the original, but I absolutely love it. So they've had some good, some bad, whatever. Well, they're also looking now doing Princess and the Frog, which it would be the most modern of their films for them to do a live action remake. And I think there's a lot of good reason to do it. Take a shot at it. But this is interesting. One of my favorite actresses in the world, and the future ex-Mrs. Campea, Lupita Nyong'o, Academy Award winner, if I'm not mistaken, and blockbuster movie star in movies like Black Panther and Star Wars. There's a report going around that Lupita Nyong'o is being circled and approached to play the lead role of Tiana in The Princess and the Frog. And I have to ask why. And I'll tell you what, it's not because I don't think Lupita Nyong'o is an absolutely mind-blowing, terrific actress. 100% she is. She's world-renowned. Guys, listen, I know almost none of you watched it, but there was a little movie out about 6 or 7 years ago called The Queen of Katwe. And it is wonderful and fantastic. And she's one of the leads in it. And I've never loved her in anything as much as I loved her in this. You got to go watch it. She's amazing. But, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, because I trust your understanding and knowledge and handle on Disney princess lore more than my own.
That makes sense.
Tiana's supposed to be 19.
Yeah.
Lupita Nyong'o, while a goddess and magnificent in all ways, is 40. Now, I've read some whispers that, Disney would make some fundamental changes to the story to accommodate Lupita. But see, this is what I have a problem with, because I've always believed that the characters are not there to serve the actors. The actors are there to serve the characters, and thus the story. And I love the idea of having Lupita in anything, but if this is supposed to be a 19-year-old girl, I don't really feel comfortable with the idea of she's not 19 now. She's a 40-year-old woman who's done this. Well, then it's not Princess and the Frog anymore. I mean, at least it's not the live-action remake of Princess and Frog. No, I always want to leave some wiggle room for a filmmaker doing an adaptation like this to have some creative license and to do something different, maybe a different vision of it. But I don't know. I'm a little conflicted. On this, Chris. You hear about this. What would you make of this?
It is casting that I can understand why they would absolutely go pursue her. But it is one of those things, too, of I don't know if that's exactly the right fit. Mostly for me, it's the singing aspect of this, because the original Tiana is played by Nika Noni Rouse, who has a beautiful voice. She was in Dreamgirls, obviously. She is the voice of Tiana. And I have heard Lupita sing in Little Monsters. And
oh my God, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. And she's precious in that. But does she have a Disney caliber voice? You know, you look at the remake of The Little Mermaid, and you actually have Jodie Benson, the original voice of Ariel, popping up in a cameo in that film. And she has such an iconic and beautiful voice. And then you hear how Miss Bailey sings, and you go, this is fine.
Yep, this totally
This all
works.
makes sense.
100%
That is Ariel. They are two different Ariels, and this all makes sense to me. I would need to hear her singing to make sure she has that beautiful voice that Tiana has, because while Lupita Nyong'o is one of the most talented individuals roaming the earth right now, I don't know about her singing background. And that's one of the things that always is jarring to me when it comes to Disney films, is back in the kind of golden age of Disney, that renaissance, when we had Beauty and the Beast, when we had Little Mermaid, Aladdin, those. Aladdin being the exception here, they got Broadway singers to voice not only the singing part, but the actual character as well.
Right.
Aladdin, they did the Broadway actors for just the singing roles. And then, like Steve from Full House was Aladdin. But I always thought that really made sense. And it was so wonderful to have that congruency through a performance. The same way the Frozen movies or the Tangled movies have done that, of having the characters all sing their own songs and everything. And I would just want to make sure that she has a stellar voice, because sometimes film singing isn't of the same caliber of those kind of Disney Broadway kind of things.
Well, and to your point, there have been a couple of Disney live action remakes where even in one that I loved, like Aladdin, where you get somebody, if it's a musical, you get somebody who then sings and it kind of pulls you out of the movie for a bit because it's just not up to the standard of the other singers. Beauty and the Beast, Emma
Watson.
Emma Watson,
She has
right?
a lovely voice where I want to hear her sing great indie rock songs and be on an acoustic guitar.
Right. But when
I
she's
don't want her
singing in that
singing Paige
movie,
O'Hara.
when other people are singing in the movie who clearly have a better, I mean, she's way better than me, but I mean, she's singing in this movie with people who are clearly elevated above her singing, and then she sings and it kind of pulls you out. Another example of that would be Aladdin, which I really loved. But you had Naomi, what was Naomi's last name?
Scott?
Scott, thank you. You had Naomi Scott, who is a singer, like flat out, she's a singer. And they're singing Whole New World and whatever. And like, God bless the kid who played Aladdin. I really liked him in the movie, a hell of a lot. But he shouldn't be singing next to Naomi Scott, right? Because that's where it really all of a sudden felt like you were pulled out. Because Naomi Scott singing Whole New World, it's like, this is like the movie experience. And then he sings, and he does a wonderful job. He does, for somebody who's not a professional singer. But it becomes very apparent he ain't a professional singer.
Oh, I found him very charming, though.
I did too.
I just
loved
loved
him in
everything.
that
I want
movie.
him to be in so many more things that are good.
The only other thing that I know that he's been in has been that Hallmark Channel
The
Girl
horrible
from Riverdale.
movie. Yeah. It was on, I think it was on Pluto TV.
Was it?
It was on my list of things that I was so mad about watching.
He's the lead star in a $1 billion film and he can't get anything else.
And he's so
after.
talented and so wonderful. Oh.
But he probably should have had a voice stand in for him in Aladdin. And I wonder with the age, which completely changes the character. I wonder with the singing, if they're going to have somebody else do her singing parts, which is fine, or if they'll downgrade all the other singers around her so she doesn't sound like she sticks out like Naomi Watson did.
Maybe. And then to your
Emma
point
Watson,
about the
I mean.
age too, it does make the story different because there is something wildly different about a 19-year-old pursuing owning a restaurant and somebody in their 30s or 40s. So
Yeah.
that does change the game a
There's
little
going to be a
bit.
song in the middle about how she's been a bridesmaid in 18 of her other friends' weddings. And when can she have her time?
Been there, girl.
All right. With that down,
Sometimes
guys.
people just got to wait a little longer for the frog.
That's right. The frog will come, or there's too many of them. We're still going to talk about, is Gal Gadot really the right choice to play in Snow White? That's something that's being asked now. And Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, we got the filmmakers talking about when we could finally see this thing get back on the release schedule. But before we do, we're going to take a couple seconds here and thank two of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Rocket Money and MasterClass. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Rocket Money. Did you know that the average person has around 12 paid subscriptions and they might not even remember to subscribing to half of those? If you have no idea just how much you're spending each month, you need Rocket Money. It's this great app that tracks all of your expenses so you know exactly where your money is going. I recently just found out that over 80% of people have subscriptions that they've completely forgotten about. Seriously, think about how many free trials you subscribe to that you just probably never canceled. And that's why I'm such a big fan of Rocket Money, because I was one of those people. When I signed up to Rocket Money, I was stunned to find out that a gym I had belonged to in another city I lived in, I had still been paying my dues to for over 2 years. Also, that music subscription service I use, I forgot I was subscribed to 2 other ones. That's where Rocket Money comes in, because Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. With over 3 million users and counting, Rocket Money customers have saved on average of $720 a year. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Campea. That's rocketmoney.com/Campea. rocketmoney.com/Campea. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, MasterClass. Guys, as a small business owner, I am finding myself having to be in negotiations all the time, whether it's with new contractors, vendors, or even agencies that represent our company. Now, I don't like to go into these negotiations unarmed, so I found the perfect class on MasterClass, The Art of Negotiation by Chris Voss, a real-life former FBI lead hostage negotiator. Taking this class on MasterClass made me feel a lot more equipped and confident going into all these various negotiations I have to do on a regular basis. With MasterClass, you can learn from the best to become your best anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. An annual membership starts at just $10 a month, and you get unlimited access to every instructor, thousands of online lessons, exclusive content, insight, and much more. There are over 180 classes to pick from, everything from filmmaking with Martin Scorsese all the way to cooking with the great Gordon Ramsay. In MasterClass, you will find practical lessons that you can apply to your life and work. So guys, get unlimited access to every class, and right now, as a John Campea Show listener, you can get 15% off when you go to masterclass.com/Campea. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off an annual membership. masterclass.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Rocket Money and MasterClass for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to this, shall we? You know, some people are a little bit put off by the fact that I don't think Gal Gadot is all that great. Don't get me wrong. I think in person, not acting, she is 1,000% charm and delight, and in everything that I can tell, an absolute sparkling human being. I remember when she was kind of holding court, running the panel for Wonder Woman 84. I don't know if you remember this, Chris, but when they were doing DC Fandom and the whole virtual fan experience, and they did a virtual panel with Wonder Woman 84, and Gal Gadot was like holding court in it. And I just remember watching that because I'm going to be honest, I've never been a big fan of hers as a performer, but I remember watching every minute of that presentation going, she has like Dwayne Johnson level natural charisma and charm. I don't know why she hasn't been able to tap into that and bring that to her on-screen performances, but I'm like, I would go watch an evening with Gal Gadot on stage somewhere. She just seems so charming, so delightful, so wonderful. But I have to admit, I've never thought that much of her acting ability. And it seems like maybe more people are starting to question that, as even some outlets now are starting to wonder out loud whether or not her being cast as the evil queen in the upcoming Snow White movie, which she's doing, I almost said with Dolph Ziggler, with Rachel Ziegler. We were talking about Dolph Ziggler a second ago. Anyway, are starting to wonder about it because she's got a new movie on Netflix with Jamie Dornan, the dude from 50 Shades of Grey, called Heart of Stone.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. And listen, I think this is worth reading out loud, but this is, for instance, one of those articles. This one comes to us from Screen Rant, who writes the following. Snow White's prospects could be rescued with a strong cast, but the filmmaker's choice of lead actresses isn't a particularly good omen. West Side Story's Rachel Ziegler, who is wonderful in that movie, by the way, is playing the Disney princess herself, but the role comes after her recent movie Shazam! Fear of the Gods, which absolutely crashed at the box office. That's putting it gently. Similarly, Gal Gadot, who has been cast as the villainous evil queen, recently struggled to impress critics with her latest major role in the Netflix movie Heart of Stone, a glossy spy thriller that largely failed to make a dent on the movie scene. Heart of Stone, which follows Gadot as an international agent in the vein of Mission Impossible, did not have the latter's skill in winning over audiences and critics. Currently, Heart of Stone has a 32% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is generous. And while audiences generated a kinder 61% rating, the numbers were decidedly lackluster. This could signal tides being against the Wonder Woman star, making her a risky choice for Disney's Snow White. Even more worryingly, Heart of Stone isn't a one-off. Disney's upcoming evil queen hasn't found much critical success since her breakout playing Wonder Woman. As well as being accused of shaky performances in the Whodunit Death on the Nile and Netflix's Red Notice, which she was very shaky in both of them, Gadot has also taken more DC fare in the form of Wonder Woman 1984, Justice League and Shazam sequel, and The Flash, all of which attracted lukewarm reception at best. None of that would be Gal Gadot's fault by that. Her popping up as a cameo cannot become part of the blame for why Flash didn't do well, okay? She was in there for like a minute. Even Gadot's Wonder Woman 3 status generated confusion, as the actress suggested she was returning as the character before reports contradicted her. So, here we are. This is a movie, I think a lot of people didn't even realize or didn't remember that Gadot was going to be playing the evil queen. First of all, let me say this. I was actually intrigued. As somebody who has not been a fan of her as an actress, I was actually kind of intrigued by her playing the evil queen, because that is a departure from things she's done before. And I don't care how it turns out. I always respect performers or directors who step out of what has been their comfort zone to try something and portray something a little different. And I think she deserves kudos for that. And going to be hard for Amy Mir not to say she's the fairest one of them all. It's going to be very, very hard for that. But so I think it was really cool that she took the role, but how will she be able to do it? Will she be able to pull it off? Not sure. The new, again, I thought, unfortunately, her performance in Death on the Nile was really not strong. The whole movie itself wasn't strong. So, I mean, there was that as well. Red Notice has got two of my favorite movie stars, my absolute two favorite movie stars in the world, and Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But even that couldn't save it. I mean, that was a bad movie. And I don't know why. I know why they're making a sequel. Big stars, going to get big viewing numbers. But I thought the movie was terrible, and she certainly wasn't great in it. Chris, let me ask you this. I take a lot of heat from a lot of people whenever Gal Gadot comes up, and I mention I actually don't think she's that strong of an actress. But as years progress, and we've really failed to see her hit any kind of a breakout moment outside of the thing of DC, how important is this Snow White movie going to be for her? Again, she's playing a completely different role, which I applaud her for doing. Could this honestly be a make or break moment, or are we still a little bit too early to really say she's going to have a make or break moment here? I don't know. What do you think about this?
I mean, as an actor, I always hate the idea of a make or break because you're allowed to have a bad day at the office.
Right.
But several bad days in a row usually do lead to you being let go. So I'm really hoping she turns it around, because the first thing I ever saw her in, tiny part, was in Date Night with Tina Fey and Steve Carell, and she's Marky Mark's hot chick at his apartment.
I totally forgot about that. They have sex with us?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember. That's right. She's the one who says that.
But she's so adorable in that moment,
Yes.
too. And you're just like, you're precious. And this is the nicest way to see if people want to have a foursome with you. What a sweetie. She's so adorable. And then as Wonder Woman, I really like her as Diana. I think she's done a phenomenal job in that role. Other things, I don't think she's be able to find her footing. Death on the Nile was pretty disappointing as a whole, though, too. That movie was a bummer for me. And I didn't particularly enjoy Red Notice. My husband loves Red Notice.
Of course he does.
Of course he does.
Of course he does.
Logan and Ray have all the same movie taste, and I love it. They're movie bros. So what I like about this, though, for her is she's played so many things. I haven't seen Heart of Stone yet. She's played a lot of things lately where it is that kind of push on the action star. And that's great. That's a fun thing to pursue. She also still has to be cool and likable, and certain traits kind of come with those type of leading roles. I love when an actor, particularly a leading lady type, goes villain. I love when they get to play a role where the entire point is you are not likable, you are a narcissist, you are full of yourself, and you want to murder people because that sounds fun for you. I think it's really freeing when an actor, particularly one who is really judged on their looks. I mean, if you go to her IMDb page, the notable trait about her is her model-esque stature.
Ooh.
Which
what
was
people
like,
say about me.
I hear it all the time, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I really do. Yeah. But I love the idea of her being in a role that isn't about that. That isn't about being a beautiful Grecian warrior. That isn't about being, this hot thief that two guys are interested in. I like the idea of her getting to play somebody really nasty and messed up. And the evil queen is that. She's going to murder her stepchild. She doesn't like she's prettier than her.
She's like, look at her. I'm going to kill her.
Yeah.
Look at her. She wants to kill
She
Snow
wants to
White.
kill her. And I think this could be a really fun opportunity for her to tap into some other things that we haven't seen and really open up, even to herself, the potential of playing other types of roles.
I'm going to step out on a limb here.
Uh-oh.
I'm not saying this is what it's going to be.
Okay.
I'm saying it has the potential to be it. Okay. This could be playing the villainous evil queen. This could be her Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder moment. It really could. For those of you who forget, we were reminded yesterday that Tropic Thunder came out 15 years ago.
Oh.
Ugh. Anyway, for those of you who forget, Tom Cruise's career was very much in question through a lot of different things, but was very much in question until Tropic Thunder came along. And he took on this role in Tropic Thunder, one of my favorite movie characters actually ever, that he played in this thing. And It was so different from him. It was so out of the box for him. It was so, you know, juxtaposed against our normal image of Tom Cruise and all that kind of stuff that it just infatuated all of us and loved him. And all of a sudden, Tom Cruise was back and everybody loved him again. I want to suggest that Gal Gadot stepping out and playing a role like the evil queen, to your point, Chris, I think this could potentially be something like that for her. If she can come out there and play this vile and make us believe it and make us feel it, which I confess is something I don't think she's been able to do with her other characters. But if she can make us believe it and feel it, and she takes on this totally, you know, juxtaposed character as opposed to the things we normally see her in, the way she normally plays. Yeah. If she can do that, I think that honestly, as somebody who has been critical of her, I think that completely changes the conversation around Gal Gadot. This could be a really, really great moment. At the same time, though, if she also turns in, like, say, a dud performance on this.
Well, there's always Emilia Clarke.
Yeah, they can always go and get Emilia Clarke. There's a roommate buddy comedy they could do. I don't know if we'll ever see her recover from that, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm putting too much weight on this one movie, but we'll see. Anyway, all right, guys, with that down, let's get on to this final topic here, shall we? And that one is this. All due respect to Oppenheimer, which is my second favorite movie of the year, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is still my number one favorite film of the year. I'm so flabbergasted by that movie, so awe-inspired by the movie, the gorgeousness of the movie, the emotion of the movie, the character development of the movie, the true connection and everything. Oh, just love that movie so much. And so it was with great excitement that I was looking forward to May of 2024 when we would get the third installment of the Spider-Verse trilogy, Beyond the Spider-Verse. Now, of course, with the writer's strike, with the actor strike, and all the other stuff going on around the Spider-Verse world off camera, we found out that Sony had pulled Beyond the Spider-Verse off the release calendar entirely. Like, didn't bump it, didn't delay it. They indefinitely pulled it off the schedule. It has no release date. As of right now, there's just none. Well, now we're getting a little bit of an update from Lord Miller. Of course, the geniuses behind this thing, also the geniuses behind Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Yeah.
The geniuses behind the 21 Jump Street, which I freaking love those movies. But anyway, they went on. This is what they say. This comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant talking about an interview they did in Digital Spy, saying during an interview with Digital Spy, Spider-Verse franchise writers and producers Phil Lord and Christopher Miller shared a new update regarding Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse's release date. According to the duo, the movie will release, quote unquote, when it is ready. Lord explained the lack of concrete release date for the film in their answer, saying, "Those conversations are thankfully above our pay grade, but I can tell you that we're already hard at work on it and we'll take the time to make it great." So they basically said what a lot of other studio people won't say. They just said, look, we'll release it when it's ready. When it's ready. That's when we'll put it out. And we're working really hard. We're going to take all the time that we need to make sure that it's great. Now, they clearly did that with Across the Spider-Verse, because we had over 4 years in between the first movie and the second movie. I do not want to wait 4 years. I don't want to wait 4 years for this thing. Yes, I want them to do it right and all that kind of crap. But if you were at a point that you thought you would have this thing ready by May of 2024, then you don't need 4 years to get this thing ready, right? You just don't. But Ray, you've said before, you want them to take, I remember on the show you said, you want them to take all the time it needs to make it as good as possible. Now you're hearing them say, I can tell you we're already hard at work on it. We are going to take the time it takes to make it great. What do you think about their comments?
I go back to that animator friend of mine on the train. I mean, if they're gonna push these workers the way they did with this last movie, I'd rather them take their time. I mean, it's gonna be good. I mean, look at Across the Spider-Verse, the end product.
Yeah.
Now imagine if these workers are relaxed and like not pressured, and then maybe some of the things, there was not a lot to complain about in that movie, but maybe all all the little things that if there was something to complain about, maybe all that is gone. It's a perfect movie. I don't know.
The
I'm
only thing
just
that was
saying.
wrong with that movie to me, the only complaint I had about Across the Spider-Verse was a technical issue, which
The
was
audio?
the first act had some audio mixing problems, which
Mm-hmm.
they have addressed and fixed. But other than that, I have zero complaints about that movie.
And imagine what time would give them like more creativity. That is one of the most creative animated movies I've ever seen. Imagine if they have a little bit more time instead of just like, because of course I believe they're gonna give us something new in this next one, but you can't rush creativity sometimes.
But I mean, there's also something to be said. I remember George Lucas once talking about time. He said at some point, because more time doesn't automatically mean more quality, because George Lucas talked about how, you work on something, but at some point there comes a threshold where if you keep working on it and just keep tinkering with it, it actually starts to decline in its quality. And that's where his famous line came out, movies are never done, they're released. And I kind of like, so I don't want them to take too much time on this, because that could actually kill your creativity.
We can go back to CinemaCon when they came out on stage. I
yeah,
mean,
I
I don't know
remember
if you guys noticed their faces. They look like they have had no sleep,
Yep.
whatever, like that.
So
You know what I'm
Brooklyn?
saying? I think it's maybe they learned from this past movie because all the stories that may have come out. Maybe they wanted not to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, because what we heard, those stories that we did, what we heard was kind of a terrible like work environment to be in.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean-
I hate to be the one to say it. I don't really care.
You got a good movie out of it though.
Because the end product was awesome.
Right.
The result was kind of fun. Now, don't get, I'm not,
I
listen,
know.
I
said,
don't give a shit that those people were exploited.
I
Give me my
said on
show.
this show when we covered that story that obviously that is a problem and that obviously that needs to be addressed.
Maybe we should put like a little devil and little angel on your shoulder
Yeah.
Yeah, but
every time.
I'm
So
just
every time
saying-
you say something that's not whatever, then you look at the devil. So
Oh my
everyone will
gosh,
know.
Ray, you could make
I'm
the
just
cutest little
saying.
TV graphics.
That as a fan, the end result was pretty damn good. Don't mess the recipe up too much.
Right.
And obviously, there are human issues to be taken into account there.
right.
100%. I just don't know why other animated films come into existence without too much trouble in shorter periods of time.
Have they pushed the bar like Spider-Verse though?
I mean, it's just such a visually, it's such
I know,
an interesting
it's
movie, right? Like there's so much
crazy.
going on in every frame.
So many people, though, I know your friend has spoken about this, but so many animators I know talk about the burnout of just, this is not a job that you do for a long time because your brain will explode. You cannot handle it. And the pressures, especially now, too, work from home is great for most of us when it comes to animation and post-production and things like that. Oh, you do not have boundaries anymore between your work life and your home life of just like, well, you can draw for 12 hours. You're home.
You know that the one thing he said, I said, what's the hardest part about animating for Bob's Burgers or whatever? He said, keeping my family together.
Well, and that there's really, this is one of the reasons when we covered the story the other day about how this small little group of visual effects people that happen to have a department at Marvel are talking about unionizing, why that's so important, because there's really, there's less and less a distinction between animators and visual effects artists. I mean, they're really their worlds. There are distinctions. Nobody write me hate mail. I'm just saying, more and more their worlds are being merged, right? And how the workloads that come along with that versus the rewards that come along with that are out of balance. And something's got to happen to make it. I've been saying for many years that visual effects artists need to unionize. They absolutely, whether that's under IATSE or their own thing, and animators need to be a part of that too. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all comes about. All right, guys. With all that down, we're now going to move on and take questions from our YouTube channel members. But before we do, we're going to take just a quick moment here and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks like fun at first. They probably even threw in a free phone, but now you can't get off. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You guys know before I came to Mint Mobile, I was paying triple what I am paying now on the standard big wireless plan, and I will never go back. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped right to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's go over and start taking some topics and questions from our YouTube channel members. Chris, what do we got up here first?
From Wesley, all the MCU multiverse cameos, rumored or otherwise, and the SAG strike got me thinking, how is that contracted? Is it different than day rate minimum or guest star or various other designations? Is it contract to contract?
It's like anything else. Hey, will your guy, because usually they talk to their agent, show up and do a one-day shoot to do this cameo scene? Yes, he could be available. He would be asking for this much. And to which point the producer will go, okay, that's a little bit too much than what we wanted to pay for that. Or, okay, yeah, we can make that work. And it'll be different, but it's definitely an individual thing by individual thing. It's piece by piece, contract by contract, situation by situation. And so going to Chris Evans to get him to do a quick pop-up cameo in something is going to be different than saying getting Ray Ora to show up and pop up as a cameo in something. Obviously, Ray's will be much more expensive.
Yeah.
Well, no, just have like free food and I'm there.
Just have free food.
Whatever it is you want me
and
to do.
Bluey on the TV and you're set. You got him.
I'm looking at you, Sex Court TV.
He might be looking at it right now.
Entering the courtroom as the plaintiff, Ray Ora.
No, not just someone in the crowd. What problems do I have?
Just someone in the
with that
crowd.
subject?
Gotcha. Okay.
There's never any problem.
She approached with a trench coat, Your Honor.
In my defense, she was wearing a trench coat, Your
She's
Honor.
like, well, how high
Them
was
collars
the collar?
were
How high was the collar?
Very high
this.
collar, Your
That's
Honor.
beyond regulation.
It was like
Oh my
Inspector
God.
Gadget, and I couldn't handle it.
All right, what's next?
From Red One Real Talk, my local theaters have been a madhouse since Barbie released. I'm consistently waiting in lines for the bathroom and 15-minute lines for concessions. A lot of folks are saying it's their first time back since the pandemic, but if that's the case, then who helped Avatar and Mario generate the money those films did? I'm realizing that the potential movie-going audience is always bigger than we think.
It's 100%. And what he's referencing there is a story we talked about yesterday, that according to a report in Variety, that a study was done and they found that 22%, nearly 1 in 4 people who went to go see Barbie, it was their first time back in the movie theater since before the pandemic. Think about that. And we talked about how that does two things. And Chris, I'd be curious about your thoughts on this. I said that number tells us two things. Number one, it gives a little bit of context to some of the movies recently that may have underperformed. Movies like a Mission Impossible. I mean, Mission Impossible's crossed the $500 million mark, but people were expecting another 200 million on top of that. Maybe something like an Indiana Jones, something like that. That, hey, look, this percentage of the audience still hadn't come back yet. I then proposed that, like Top Gun Maverick, which was responsible for getting a big slew of people back into the theaters, that this could bode very well for the movie industry in the coming months with all this new big group of people that haven't been in movie theaters in 4 or 5 years are now back in the movie theaters again. And maybe that's part of the reason why, Blue Beetle changed its opening weekend projections from 17 million to 30 million, because now there's a whole new slew. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think there's absolute merit to all of that, because I think movies right now, the whole Barbenheimer situation, it's an event, right? That is something to go to. And I think the holdouts have been a lot of people who go, I'll just catch it on streaming. I don't need to go watch that. That doesn't sound that exciting to me, or that sounds fine, but I can watch it from the comfort of my home on Max or whatever. And so I think this kind of party that the movie theaters has become again is helpful in getting those holdouts to come and to keep going back too. Oh my gosh, I went and saw Barbie with one group of friends, but now I need to go with this other group of friends who are all dressing up for this. Or, they are doing the Barbenheimer double feature that day. Ooh, okay, I get to do a wardrobe change in the middle. Same thing with Mario Brothers for bringing families to the theater too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my kids want to keep seeing this movie and they want to keep showing up dressed as Yoshi. This is so great. Mission Impossible, typically too, a viewer of ours sent us this, it always had kind of a slow build at the box office. And while Top Gun really got people back there and everything, I don't know if Mission Impossible has the same kind of nostalgia and notoriety as those things as well.
Yeah.
And while those movies previously had decent legs because people would go see it eventually and it would kind of have a trickle out effect, when you got these big blockbusters coming in, it's going to steal all that thunder. But now that we've got this momentum, I do think some other films coming out are going to ride that wave really well, so long as they can keep capitalizing on it's super fun to go to the movies, bring your friends, make it a party, do all of this.
All right, what's next?
From Pro Wrestling EVE, Cineworld and Odeon do secret screenings where you have no idea what movie you're getting. Oh, Regal does that too. Only that it's a movie that's yet to be released. Does any of that ticket money go to the studios, or is that all for the cinema as it's unadvertised and being used to encourage word of mouth, publicity, etc.? Many thanks. Love being a member.
I really wish I could tell you I've had positive experience doing these secret screenings. I've gone to 2, and they've both sucked. And we walked out of both. Like the first one we went to, we were all excited. I thought there was a possibility that, I think the first one I went to, Anna and I went, we knew it wasn't likely, but we went in fingers crossed that it was going to be Black Adam, which was still a few weeks out from coming out. But it ended up being the Zac Efron. And I love Zac Efron, but his movie, Greatest Beer Run Ever. And we're like, oh my God, this is so bad. And we left after about a half hour. And then the same thing happened the second time around. We've gone twice, both times struck out getting a movie that we are actually looking forward to seeing. But I like the idea. Yeah, no, you can't make money on a studio's movie and not give the studio their cut. When I was at AMC theaters, they were not doing secret screenings. But I can guarantee you, knowing the AMC culture or the movie theater industry culture, there is no way a studio is going to let you make money on their movie and not give them their cut. There's just no way. So 100%,
100%.
that the studios are getting a cut of that money. Not all of it, but they're getting a cut of that
That's
money.
why you make it a secret screening.
It's secret. Shh.
Yeah.
We're not telling anybody. All right, what's next?
From Wesley. Chris, hi. Ran across a Toast of London sketch called Yes, just a voiceover artist given a one-word script, yes. But they keep asking for different take till he descends into madness. Just curious if that's anywhere close to reality for you guys while I'm rolling on the floor here. Wesley, this is my life. Okay, I still need to edit this and put it online. I play a lot of woodland creatures, a lot of dogs and cats. I have to meow so much in my life professionally. And I was doing this the other day for a video game, and I was getting notes like, no, you need to meow confidently. And I was like, oh my God, how dare I? That cat was just filled with existential dread. What am I doing? And so I just had to keep doing different cat noises until they were the most confident cat noises that this director wanted. So yeah, doing those like, yes, but like this. Yes, but like it's the first time your mother's handed you a toy. Yes, but it's like you're eating your favorite soup. Like that's how people talk to you. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And I say that's also how I direct people.
Can I just say I just saw the most adorable video of a cat meeting a dolphin yesterday.
Send
And
it
it
to
even
me.
pulled its little snout in and it
Oh, Jesus.
was on it. It was
Okay.
amazing.
That's amazing.
Does it end with the dolphin eating the cat?
How
Silly.
dare you?
Then I'm
Silly.
not interested.
Silly.
All
They
right,
become best friends.
what's next?
From Wesley again. Hey, y'all. Had fun at Gran Turismo. First 20-minute dialogue, performances, and story beats anywhere from mid to embarrassing. Though the rest, they all improved, but the racing was the best I've ever seen on screen. Also, 11 minutes of trailers.
I made this comment on the show the other day, and I don't know if it's just a temporary thing or if it just happened to me, but the last 3 or 4 movies I've gone to,
Yeah.
AMC has taken their basically 30 minutes of trailer and pre-show run. You know, movies supposed to start at 7, but it really starts like 7:30. And it's been starting at like, a 7 o'clock movie's been starting at like 7:16 and 7:17. And that's a significant difference. And I don't want to get my hopes too high, but if that is actually showing a policy change at AMC that they're actually shrinking and reducing the amount of trailer time, I'm going to be a very, very happy moviegoer.
When I saw TMNT on Sunday,
Yep.
it was, I think, about 17 or 18 minutes of trailers, but then it was like 19 or 20 after the Kidman ad.
Altogether, but still, that's
So
about
altogether.
10 minutes shorter than
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
right? So, I totally forgot the question.
Here
said
we go.
Gran Turismo.
Oh, yeah, Gran Turismo should have completely taken out the whole girlfriend scene, the stealing dad's car scene. None of that was germane to the overall narrative or story of the thing. A good full half hour of that movie should have been cut out. It would have been tighter, better, and yes, the racing in it was absolutely phenomenal. Really love that part. Overall, a pretty darn good movie. I enjoyed it. All right, what's next?
From CJ Rebirth, Chris, I'm curious if you know exactly how it is that people like Kevin Clash or Frank Oz voice Jim Henson Muppets, meaning they are voicing Kermit or Elmo on set when the scene is being performed, or is it done in ADR? Oh, that's a great question. Most of it's done live and they're all mic'd up during it, and then you can go back and do ADR if needed, but the Muppet and the Muppet performer is always one.
Aren't they all like kind of below the stage?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that way they can improvise their lines and stuff too. There's a lot of improvising with the Muppets.
All I can tell you is that when what was the Muppet movie with forgetting Sarah Marshall boy?
With Jason Segel, the Muppet.
Forgetting Sarah
Yeah.
Marshall boy.
So
Forgetting Sarah Marshall boy.
Aren't you a sheriff?
I'm gonna see if I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to find this or not, but I was lucky enough to go to do the press junket because at that time I wasn't doing many junkets anymore, but you're damn well sure I was going to do one for the Muppets. And hold on a second. I'm going to see if I can find Kermit the Frog here. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to. Never
Might
mind.
also need to reconnect NDI because I lost your air.
Oh, okay. It doesn't matter. I don't think I can find it, but I got a picture of me with the Muppets. I went to do the press day for it, and I got to interview Kermit and Miss Piggy. And
This is all I want in my life.
it was one of the greatest moments of my journalistic career to do that. But I can tell you that the performers operating those characters were there in the room operating and doing the voice as it was. Obviously, that's different than recording for a show, but it was very much like that. All right. What's next?
From Joel, did you guys see or hear about A Million Miles Away? Based on a true story with Michael Pena playing a migrant farmer who ends up working for NASA and becoming an astronaut. Thought of you, Ray.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, this is right up your
Yeah, the video
alley.
didn't freeze. Ray's just frozen
just
in
in it.
time.
Let's do this.
I don't know anything. Do you guys know anything
What's it
about
called?
this?
No,
I
million
have-
miles away.
Yeah,
Many
I know
miles
about it.
away.
No, a million.
Million miles away.
Million miles. Yeah, because many's not
Yeah.
close.
Well,
A lot.
it would be indeed many.
A lot of miles away.
It would be a lot of miles away.
Really debating the
Really, a lot of miles away.
A lot of miles away. All right. No, you know what? Listen, that brings up something. Why is Michael Pena reduced to being
has he
things
been
like Tom and
blacklisted or
Jerry and Dora the Explorer? And he is, honestly, in my opinion, go watch End of Shift. He's like an Academy level. He should be in the running for Academy Awards. He's really good. And where the hell is he in my MCU?
Is that end of what was
End
the
of
one?
Watch.
End
of
of
Watch.
Yeah. What did I say? Did I not
End
say?
of Shift.
Oh, did I say End of Shift? Sorry about that. End
That's
of
us
Watch.
every
My
day.
bad.
At the
Yeah.
end of the
End
day.
of Shift. That's a totally different movie.
Sinking
I
ship.
want to know why he's not in more stuff like that. The dude's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway. All right. What's next?
From Jesse as a Turtle. I found out my friends like to watch TV series. My friend likes to watch TV series while he's driving? No auto driving? I asked other people for their opinion on this, and it's more common than I think. Besides the reckless part about it, does this actually count as watching a show or movie fully?
Depending on how much attention you're giving to the car versus the show. I'd say if it's like 60-40 show driving, then yeah, you're doing a good job for the producers, but not so much
This
for
is
everyone else on the
horrible.
freeway.
I know. Why are we even?
Your friends are not
Yeah.
good.
Look, I actually will put on like YouTube like news things on while in the car, but I'm not watching it.
You're just listening? Yeah.
I have my phone blacked out and I'm just listening to it as if
Yeah.
it's a podcast.
See, like, I'm a little different. I'll be like,
Oh boy.
I've got a phone holder like above my Tesla screen. So I will slap on Parks and Rec, put it
Put
right
it
up
right
there,
in front of the front.
hit autopilot.
Yeah, but in a Tesla
That's
with
autopilot,
autopilot
though.
is different.
So that's,
These are people in Camrys.
yeah, I was gonna say if you're in your Prius and you're like, well, I'm gonna load up my TV. No.
Yeah, no, that's not good.
You're
See,
bad
the weird
and
thing
you
is,
should
I
feel
actually
bad.
trust autopilot more than myself because when I talk to Anne, it's like,
All right, I'm never riding
autopilot's
with you
got
again.
9 sets of eyes all around the camera. It can see or all around the car. It can see way more than I can see. I actually feel very safe in autopilot. and by the way, no, I do not recline my seat or put my feet up. I don't do that. I sit there and I watch the road. But yeah, no, that's kind of crazy.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, there's a reason, and it's illegal. There's a reason it's illegal to do that.
What state does he live in? I want to be away from him.
By the way, are you able to get NDI up now? I wanted to show this to see if that is one of the greatest single
Oh my
days of
God.
my career.
I think he said, you suck, Chris, when he took that picture. He said, you suck, Chris.
Oh, no, Kermie would love me.
I know.
I've seen so many of his movies.
Oh.
Fun fact, Logan's best friend, they had known, they were getting married before us, and they had known that if we were going to do a first dance at our wedding, it was going to be to Rainbow Connection.
Aw.
And then the bride was like, I like that idea. I want to do it.
Oh, yeah. I know people
And-
like that.
That bitch.
And Logan was like,
she
hey,
really did that?
I know that music is for everyone, but like, that feels really personal to be like, I like your idea. I want to take it. Could you not do it? And he was like, oh man, I'll talk to her. And then at the wedding,
Oh
that
my
song
God.
came on for their first dance. And there's a photo of me being like,
No, that's
I was heartbroken.
That's
They're not together
not good.
anymore.
That's horrible of them to do that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's karma.
Yeah.
Or
What?
But
That's not karma.
them be-
because
No, they're not together
they're
anymore.
not
Oh,
together
that
anymore.
is karma.
Yeah.
Gee.
Good. I hope it
Tomorrow's
was a
like-
messy
I thought
breakup.
you were
Man.
I hope they had kids that cried.
Oh man.
No, that's going too
I was
far.
gonna say
Okay.
the guy, sweet guy. The woman, terrible.
I know.
Awful.
Sounds like a narcissist.
Oh yeah.
I-
I was
I-
just like, why?
I hope she watched what's it called Meg 2 like 3 times.
That's the ultimate punishment. All right, what's next?
From Woodcut Art. Wow, there are 3 trailers for streaming shows today. Peacock's The Continental prequel series, Netflix's Maestro with Bradley Cooper, and Amazon Prime's A Million Miles Away with
Oh,
Michael
there you go.
Pena.
Amazon
Yeah,
Prime.
I actually, yeah.
Which one do you look forward to?
Does it start today? Does it?
I don't know. We'll have
By
to
the
look it
way,
up.
yeah, I just got a notification before we started recording the show that Maestro, that's the new Bradley Cooper
Yeah, that looked kind of
movie.
interesting.
I am very interested about it, but we didn't have time to get ready to talk about it on today's show. I'm sure we'll talk about it tomorrow. But I'm looking forward to that. But in that ways, is this a new Continental trailer? Because they just put out their trailer like a week and a half ago, didn't
I
they?
guess so. Let me double check.
If this is another brand new one, I gotta go look that up. I thought, look, I know a lot of people didn't really love the first trailer to Continental. I thought it was great. Ray didn't love it.
I mean, it was cool, but I just didn't like all the characters.
Right. I see what you're saying.
Characters and
Right. All right.
Yeah, I'm only getting like 6 days ago.
All
was
right.
the most recent one. I don't
What's
know, though.
next?
From Albus Dumbledore. Hi, crew. I did my double feature of Gran Turismo and Haunted Mansion and had a good time with both.
You know what? Both to me were movies that pretty far exceeded my expectations of, because I had very low expectations for both of those movies. And both of them, I don't think either film is great, but I walked out of both going, you know what? That was pretty good. And which is way more than I thought I would say about either of them. All right, what's next?
From CJ Rebirth, question for Chris. Have you seen any of the recent Mickey Mouse cartoons from Paul Ruddish? Most of them have me dying from laughter, and Mickey's voice actor in the series kills it. Oh my gosh, they're so good.
What is
They're
this?
so great. So these are new Mickey cartoons that I believe you can watch on Disney Plus and everything. I've gotten them sent to me quite a bit, but it's more of like a Looney Tunes kind of approach to Mickey, where it's not the sweet, earnest, oh boy, it's a very frustrated and often like manic Mickey. And it's really, really fun. It's a great departure from what kind of like grew up with. So I enjoy them.
I'm actually a little bit curious about that now.
They're delightful.
All right. Mickey Mouse trying to figure out how he's going to pay rent.
I'm just, my landlord's a slumlord. Oh no.
All right, what's
Minnie,
next?
get on OnlyFans. Sam Fisher, have you seen any of Strange Planet on Apple from Dan Harmon and Nathan W. Pyle based on Pyle's hit webcomic strip? I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, but it definitely got a lot of chuckles out of me. And it was super wholesome. Oh, I didn't know it was out already.
Yeah, I just saw the little thumbnail for it today on Apple Plus. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's this?
I watched the trailer and was like, oh, this will be fun.
Yeah, I saw images for it. I'm like, that doesn't look interesting to me at all. So
Oh, did you ever read the little webcomics?
I did not, no.
Okay. They're cute. I'm interested about making a whole show about it though, because I like them as their little just like quick digestible boop.
All right. What's next?
From Temple DC 2043. Hey, John and crew, I don't have many friends that are into movies like we are, and they don't know of any movies coming out. All they watch are streaming services. Do you think this is hurting the box office when the most people only know of blockbuster movies, but not of when most people only know blockbuster movies, but not of the other 90% of movies out there.
That's not a new thing. I can go back to when I was a kid going to Lime Ridge Mall in Hamilton, Ontario to the famous Player Fourplex. And most people, other than what is the big promoted movie, a lot of people wouldn't know the other films that are in there. Now, of course, that was the day when a lot of people go to movies to find out what was playing at the movie theaters. Remember, it wasn't all that long ago that people would literally go, let's go to the movies tonight, not knowing what movie they were going to go see. And people would be like going to McDonald's. People would go to the movie theaters, look up at the billboard and the showtimes and say, oh, let's go see that. Mm-hmm. That's not the way it's done anymore. But people would go and say, well, that looks interesting. Oh, I don't hear good things about that. Ooh, that one just sounds good. And they would go in and pick their movie and go see it that way. Now it's all different. We literally plan weeks in advance and buy our tickets weeks in advance. We get our exact seat booked for us now. It's a very, very different experience. But really that overall, that thing that there's a demographic of people that don't really go to the movies much and, only know about the big movies that are coming out. That's always been there. It's looked a little bit different, but it's always kind of been there. All right, what's next?
From Yosei FV. Dear John, what are your thoughts on if the next few Marvel projects are mid like the recent projects? Will Marvel be able to bounce back? Or will the reputation have soured too much by then? Love the show, guys.
The big advantage that Marvel has, because it is in a decline. I mean, I don't care how big of a Marvel fan you are. You got to acknowledge it's in a decline right now. The big difference, though, between the situation, the context that Marvel is in versus, say, DC, was Marvel had 12 years of uninterrupted gangbusters success before this decline happened. DC never had that. Right? As much as I love Man of Steel and I like Batman versus Superman and whatever, DC never had a 12 plus year uninterrupted streak and run of gangbusters and blockbuster success. So when they hit a decline, like they have been, I would argue they have been in the last 2 years, that is something that you can recover from because everybody remembers a 10 plus year streak of everything being great. It's easier to get back to that. Whereas with DC, their only option right now is to reboot. So even if they have a couple of more in decline projects, even if that happens, the fact of the matter is they have 12 years of great success that they can easily get back to. So yeah, they could. If they continue to decline, and now that Bob Iger's back, Kevin Feige has his authority back, all that kind of stuff, I do expect to see that start to change. But even if the next couple of ones are dreary, like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, whatever, you name it, if they're as bad as those, they can still turn it around because they've got a history of success. All right, what's next?
From Adrenaline Knight, do you think it would be a good idea if streamers like Netflix or Disney Plus had 4 or 5 live channels that are rotation of shows or movies? Maybe even with commercials? More money?
Like a live stream?
What's that?
He means like a live stream?
Yeah. So basically, Pluto TV. Here's the thing. While Tubi and Pluto TV are having some success for what they are, it's not how people watch television anymore. People don't say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to pull a movie. Captain Marvel. I'm going to just pull a movie out of my head here. People don't go, hey, let's sit down and watch Captain Marvel tonight. Okay, great. Well, it starts at 8:30. That's not how people watch TV anymore. They look at the TV schedule and say, okay, Captain Marvel starts at this time, which is one of the reasons why earlier in the show we talked about the decline of traditional television. I mean, we still do it with some TV shows like 6 p.m. Sunday, House of the Dragon drops. That's where we are. Yes, but generally speaking, that's not how people watch TV. So I don't know, not to mention, you start doing that, I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, but that will just mean they'll have to pay out more royalties and more licenses without a lot of eyeballs on them. So I could maybe see it something they experiment with someday just to see what it would happen, but I honestly don't know that it's something that they would adopt. It's honestly not something I know that we as consumers would actually want, to be honest with you. But I don't know, that's just me. What's next?
From James, are you looking forward to the Frasier revival when it comes out?
I'm not going to say I'm looking forward to it. I'll say I'm curious. I'm really curious about it. I was going to say Frasier Crane. What's the name of the guy who plays Frasier?
Kelsey Grammer?
Kelsey Grammer, who, by the way, I don't care what anybody says, maybe the movie wasn't great. He was a great beast. He was a great Hank
He was
McCoy.
a wonderful Hank.
He was a really good Hank
He did a
McCoy.
great job as Hank.
It was a great show. Frasier was a great show. I never liked it as much as I liked Cheers when I was a kid, which of course it's a spinoff. Probably the most successful. Is it fair to say that Frasier might be the most successful spinoff show in history?
Probably.
I
I,
think so,
mean,
yeah.
for the years of syndication and everything too.
Yeah, I mean it was killer. It was great. So I will say I am very curious about it. I'll say that. All right, time for one more question. What's next?
Oh, there you go.
From Brian Meadows. What do you think would be some benefits of Apple potentially buying Disney? For me, it's splitting divisions off the company, like the parks and cruise, and this would make sure the profits from the parks actually go back into those rather than using the profits to shore up the film divisions.
I could totally see if Apple were to buy Disney, which is becoming more and more a possibility. Because, Bob Iger right now is streamlining Disney. They're selling off some branches that a potential buyer wouldn't be interested in. I could totally see Apple completely spinning off parks and experiences from their entertainment division and make them two completely different things. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Apple bought Disney and then split off the parks and entertainment or parks and experiences and then sold that off. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think what Apple would be interested in is the entertainment IP. They're interested in being the owners of Marvel. They're interested in being the owners of Star Wars and being the owners of Pixar and Disney Animation and all that catalog and all that IP and all kind of stuff. And then the entertainment infrastructure they have as the distribution networks and all that kind of stuff that comes along with it. Something that would honestly take Apple many more billions of dollars to do if they were doing it on their own, and a decade or more to try to accomplish. They could accomplish by reaching into Tim Cook's, handkerchief pocket and pulling out
Reaching into what?
a measly 170 billion, which is nothing. Remember, Apple is a company that is now worth close to $3 trillion. 160 billion, 170 billion. Please, we're going to spend that on lunch. They're going to be able to pull that out. To do all that, get 10 years ahead of their schedule, get all that IP, all that infrastructure, and all that talent. It's something I could see them doing. It really, really is. But, we'll find out. We'll find out if that's true or not. And with that, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all of our YouTube channel members. Number one, for being channel members and supporting our channel, but also for sending in such interesting things for us to talk about. I want to thank the people in the room with me. Ray Ora.
Yeah.
Right beside him, Jonathan Voico.
See ya.
Chris Carr.
Bye, guys.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.